Hey guys, welcome back to my vlog. So this one's actually kind of special because it is pretty much my halfway mark here in Maastricht, which is just mind-blowing to say, to think that I have been here for roughly 2.5 months. I'm just makes me emotional. I really love it here. But so this vlog, I'm gonna talk about what I usually do, my classes, traveling, all of that. But I also just kind of want to update how I'm feeling at the halfway mark. What are some things I wish I would have known coming in? What are some things it's important to know? And just an all around, what have I learned so far? So enjoy. So this first clip was our mid-semester event where we all got together and went bowling, which was really fun. And I got to meet some other people in the CES program that I didn't really know. And then we've had fantastic weather the past 2 weeks, so I have spent most of it outside, studying, hanging out with friends. It's been great. Then, of course, the weekend rolled around, so we were off. We took the train to Belgium, and then we were off to Copenhagen, where I luckily had an entire road to myself on our flight. Our first stop after the hostel had to be a bakery, and then we walked to the old harbor at sunset, and it was absolutely picture perfect. It looked like everything I had seen on the internet before coming. We walked around some before grabbing some burgers and heading back to the hostel where we hung out, had some drinks, and streamed March Madness, which of course led to us meeting some other Americans. But the hostel was super nice and super social, and even though I was in a top bunk, it was super comfy, and best of all, Parks and Rec was on the Denmark Netflix, so that's how I went to sleep. We woke up the next morning and went to a Midwestern diner and had an amazing taste of home for breakfast. They even had a Kentucky bourbon from my hometown. Then we went to the Denmark National History Museum, where I got to use what I learned in my art history class last semester and see cool exhibitions like mummies and Vikings. Afterwards, we met up with my friend Sophia's brother at the food hall where we grabbed lunch, and then we walked to the Rosenborg Castle and wandered around the beautiful gardens outside. Our next stop was a park that used to be a military barrack, and right outside of the park was a Little Mermaid statue, so of course, we got our pictures and hung out there for a little while. Then we winded down by taking the bus over to Freetown Christiania, a commune with beautiful art and a unique history. We finished our day with some amazing takeout and drinks at the hostel before flying back to Belgium early on Sunday. When we got back to Belgium, I took a detour and hung out in the Starbucks at the train station until my best friend Sid from Susquehanna got to Belgium, where I got to have dinner with them before having a late night and going back to the guest house. I woke up early the next day because it's finals week this week and next, and I wanted to get ahead on everything. I spent a few hours studying at the cafe and then hung out outside to enjoy the beautiful weather afterwards. On Wednesday, I had a field trip and had the opportunity to learn more about the Jewish history of Maastricht, which was really interesting. The rest of the week was spent working on finals and taking long walks after having a few breakdowns and needing to decompress. I ended the week doing my favorite thing, eating ice cream and watching Mamma Mia outside at sunset. Okay, so some things I wish I would have known before coming. First, I'm going to start with grocery shopping. So there is kind of like a little strip that has some different shops. I don't know, probably a 3 to 5 minute walk from here, even shorter if you go on your bike. I prefer to walk. But that's gonna have two main grocery stores, which are gonna be Albert Heijn and Jumbo. Both are great. I prefer Jumbo because you can use American cards there while you cannot at Albert Heijn. So that's important to keep in mind. But Albert Heijn does have like some more niche items. So like if you're looking for something very specific, they may have it. They also have very cute little like Cookie Monster donuts, which I think is important to know. But also in that little strip are Action and Hema. Both of these are kind of like Dollar General and Target combined. So they just have like the most random stuff. So that's where I got like my notebooks, my bike bags for my bike, a bell for my bike because mine didn't come with one. You can get some snacks there, room decor. That's where I got my cups and bowls since I wanted some bigger ones than the ones they gave us because they do give you dishes when you get here with your own little cabinet in the kitchen. But I just got some extra stuff there, so that's good to know in terms of like shopping. Obviously, there's also an Aldi and some other different places around town, but they're not as close. As for the guest house, so The layout is a little unique. It's very similar to dorms, but this used to be a hospital. And so once you live here for a while, you can kind of tell that it used to be a hospital. But so I have a single room, and then my hall has, I believe, roughly 20 people, and we all share a kitchen. There are 4 mini fridges that everyone kind of shares. I have one shelf on one, and that's never been that's never been an issue for me. I've never needed more. Mostly because it is important to know that you don't want to grocery shop too much in bulk here, because it doesn't have all of the chemicals and preservatives in it, so it will rot faster. So only buy for like maybe 4 or 5 days in advance at most. But yeah, so we all share mini fridges. You have your own little cabinet that has a lock. So like I keep my noodles in there, I keep my dishes in there. Anything that's like dry that I don't want to keep in my room goes in there. And then that has like a little stove, like hot plate type setup, where you can boil water for pasta or whatever the case may be. It has a panini press, a toaster, electric kettles for tea. There's a coffee pot. And if you don't have any of these things, you can go to the front desk, and usually they can get that sorted out for you, because we didn't have a coffee pot at first. We asked, they gave us one, all was well. And then that's also kind of like a shared space. So there's a kitchen like table to eat at. There's some couches that everyone shares. And then laundry is all the way out to where you kind of enter the hall. So the way it's set up is I am on C4, and then I am in hallway 10, room 14. It's really confusing when you get here, but trust me, you'll figure it out. But where the kind of lobby area for our hall is, that is where the elevator and the laundry room are. It's communal laundry, it's free. You don't need any coins or anything. But there are only 4 washers and 4 dryers. So make sure you don't put off your laundry to the very last minute, because sometimes you do have to wait. And the washers and dryers here have been a little bit of a learning experience. The cycles are very long in most cases, and the dryers are not as powerful in the US, so a lot of times you have to run them twice. Things to keep in mind, but they still work perfectly fine. I don't have an issue. I put them on the 2 shortest settings, and I just make sure I make small loads, and I'm fine. As for travel, so this is where I was really at a loss, was how in the world do you get out of Maastricht? I know for me, I have been told, oh, take the trains, they're easy, they're inexpensive. That is not necessarily true. Maastricht is a very small city, so a lot of the trains are more expensive out of it, which makes sense. And so if you're going to say, Brussels, Cologne, Aachen, Luxembourg, places that are relatively close, the trains are fine, and they're usually around 26 euros. But if you want to take the train to Amsterdam by yourself, it's like 30 euros one way. Why? I'm not sure. So keep that in mind. But the best way to travel internationally that I have found on a budget is to use Ryanair. Ryanair is my go-to. I've also heard good things about EasyJet. I myself haven't used it, but I have friends who have. It's very similar, your typical budget airline. But I find that they are really nice, and they fly out of both Brussels International and Brussels Charleroi. So there is an airport in Maastricht, but it doesn't fly very many places, and it's really expensive to fly out of. So we fly out of Belgium. All you have to do is take a train from Maastricht to Brussels Central, and then go to Brussels International if that's where you're going. Or you can take the train from Maastricht to Charleroi Sud or Charleroi South, and then there's a free bus from the train station to the airport. Same kind of thing, vice versa when you're coming back. It all works the same. But those have been my 2 favorite places to travel out of. So, yeah. Okay, so now I want to talk about things that are important to know. And the first thing is biking. So you don't have to have a bike when you come here, but they do highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's just really nice, especially since Maastricht is not a campus like Susquehanna. It is just kind of spread out around the city. So if you only have 20 or 30 minutes between a class, it's really helpful to have your bike, so you're not like having to sprint there and then you're sweaty and you're out of breath. No one wants that. So having a bike is great, but you do need to kind of know the rules. So it needs to have a bell, and it needs to have both front and back lights. So make sure if you buy a bike or rent a bike, it does have that. It's nice to have bike bags so that you can put like a tote bag or your groceries or whatever the case may be in them, and then you don't have to worry about like trying to hold them and bike. It's also important to know that the bike lanes work very similar to the car lanes. And so there are some that you're not supposed to come up, that you're only supposed to go down. So just kind of watch what other people are doing and making sure you're kind of staying in the right ones. Don't be the obnoxious person who's like trying to go up the down bike lane. But trust me, you'll know. It is very obvious. It's not something you need to really worry about, just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing I want to talk about is classes. So I've talked a little bit about the problem-based learning already, but now that I have almost finished my classes this block, I know a lot more about it. So in the problem-based learning, they'll give you usually a list of readings. For me, in the International Studies, Law, and Politics program, it's largely been probably like 80 pages every Tuesday and every Thursday for my class, because we have an exercise on Tuesday, a tutorial on Thursday. They're very similar. The exercises are just a little less focused on the readings. They kind of take from the lecture, and you don't have like someone leading it. It's more just kind of like a group discussion to get ready for the tutorial on Thursday. But yeah, usually it's roughly anywhere from like 40 to 100 pages of reading. But what's really important is to just read through the reading, take notes on what you think is important, what you thought was interesting, and then you'll actually have, usually it's a document, someone might actually physically write it out too though, in your class where you'll plan for the tutorial. Here you'll want to talk about topics you're going to want to talk about, questions you want to answer, so have those in mind while you're reading. And that is the bulk of the work. So in my classes, I have no more than 3 to 5 assignments the entire semester, and that's pushing it. Both of my classes right now only have, one has 2 grades for the entire class and one has 3. And so my final for my Othering Europe class is 85% of my grade, which is kind of terrifying. So just keeping that in mind, that assignments are not very frequent here, which makes it really easy to, feel like you have all the time in the world and everything's fine, and then finals roll around and you're kind of terrified and freaking out. That's always how I feel, because finals are this week. Yesterday I was just all tears, all messy, hitting every wall possible because I was kind of freaking out. Took a deep breath, went on a walk, feeling okay now. But just knowing that it's a very different system from the US. The grading system is very different. It goes from a 1 to a 10. Anything after an 8.5 virtually does not happen. It just, professors don't give it. And an 8.5 is like an A plus 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 plus. So don't feel bad if you're getting like 6s, 7s, even a 5.5 is passing. So keeping that in mind, that the grading here is very, very harsh. So do not expect to get all A pluses, perfect grades. It doesn't happen, but that is okay. It's expected.